Good evening, I'd like to call
He's got that mood lighting on half his
Select
face.
Board meeting of February 24th, 2020. Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to recognize the public. Do we have any public with us tonight?
Our road boss is here, but no public.
Okay. So we don't need to talk about the rules of procedure because there's no one. Are there any additions to the agenda?
I do not have any.
All right, are there any changes to the agenda order?
I do not have any of those either.
I presume we've all read the minutes, and do I have a motion to accept them, or do I have some editorial comments?
I'll make a motion to accept them as written.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously, thank you very much. Highway update, Dan, hi, how are you?
Good, Richard. I hope you're enjoying your vacation.
I am, thank you.
I hope the weather's good.
In and out. But there's no snow, sleet, or ice, or rain.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to get a little of that next couple days, so little mixture of stuff.
Aye.
Just updates that our sand budget and salt budget's pretty much depleted. I probably got about 800 yards in the shed. I'm hoping to get us through, because I want to clean it out anyways to redo the floor. Salt, I got 4 loads of salt last week, and that I'm over on that. So other than that, we've just been out doing a little sanding, a little plowing, cutting a little brush. Today we're out turning, making waterways and stuff so the water, when it warms up, melts. So far, we haven't got no mud. There's still a lot of ice on the roads, which days like today that's melting. But
Great,
it'll be, the brown goo will be here before we know it, so.
right.
Everything else
So
is,
from that, we can roll into new business, Dan, and the first item on the agenda in new business is the future needs of the town garage, which we wanted to have a discussion about. We were very interested in what you had to say about the future needs of the town garage.
well, I mean, like we've talked in the past, the roof needs some attention. The wood bees and the woodpeckers have got, because it's all made out of wood on the outside. So the siding should be done someday. We should probably put vinyl siding on it or some kind of different siding. The inside of the garage is all wood. And, you know, back in the day when they built it, all the material came from the lot. And, you know, we have to be very careful when we're welding and using the torches, because all it's going to take is one spark and, you know, we could lose the garage. But we do have a fire alarm system in it and a burglar alarm system. But there's some things in the shop that needs to be done. Number one, I would say the roof. You know, do something with the roof. I don't know if it needs, pull all the old screws out, put new ones in with new washers, or just maybe do a new roof. I'm not sure. So we'd have to get somebody in there to look at it to see what we really need to do.
I don't remember what the capital needs assessment said about the garage. Just, Peter, do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, so I mean, we had,
Improvements that the plan had in it?
yeah, one of the issues with the plan for the garage was that the engineer who completed it did note that due to the weather when he came, there were certain parts of the garage that he was not able to fully assess. One of which was the roof, another of which was the exterior sill, where the sills meet on the exterior part of the building, and a few other things. So because of that, he said there could be things that are of higher importance than what he noted. So I've spoken with Ian several times on it, and by far and away, I mean the work on the roof, it was suspected due to the age of the building. And so that was on there. One of his big priorities on there was also, he noted the effect of the carpenter bees and the woodpeckers on the siding, and he felt it needed to be re-sided. All of the human doors, not the bay doors, but the human doors and windows all need replacing, according to the report, and a few other things.
Okay, so
Question?
does anybody have any comments about the state of the garage? And we're looking at this issue because of the capital improvement budget and making sure that we budget prudently and wisely and fully for what is needed in regard to the garage in the upcoming years.
I think it's also good to note that due to the changes in the town in the 30 years since the garage was built, that we have 3 times the number of pieces of equipment than when the garage was first built. So most of the equipment sits outside in all forms of weather. The bays aren't big enough for the guys to fit everything in, or for stuff to be able to work on stuff when they have to do repairs in the middle of winter.
Yeah, 'cause we only have 2 bays we can get, say if we get the wings on the trucks, the 2 bigger bays, those are the only 2 doors we can get in. The other 2 doors on the other side, then you can just barely get a truck in, because when they built it, it was all this. And they cut corners and made the doors short. Of course, back then, we didn't have any trucks with wings on them. The only thing we had was the wing on the grader. Of course, the grader always stayed outside, so. I
Well,
mean,
my question is, does it make sense to put more money into this building, or?
The building's still a good sound building, I mean,
Yeah.
it's good. I mean, we have the old garage, or I got the tractor and one of the old trucks stored in it, down at the old town garage. You know, that's a cold storage building, there's no heat. All it is just storage, we put the chipper down there, and I got my chloride tank in it and some other things, but I mean, this building over here, we put a little work into it. I mean, it still ain't gonna be big enough, but it still works, serves our purpose. Plus, we got, you know, a lot of times when we park the little trucks inside the sand shed. You know, if I don't fill it right out the door, so we can back them in, so they're, at least something's undercover. So, and the loader stays in the sand shed, so. And if it gets cold enough, we got, out in the shed, I have timers out there so we can plug all the vehicles in, you know, leave them undercover and whatever, so. But the garage, you know, it started in 1986, you know, and they did volunteer help, in which back then it was, sounded like a good idea, but it didn't work. And we ended up, when the contractor was doing the school gym, they were in like a little lull, so we ended up getting a price from them to come over to finish framing, put the rafters and do the roof on it. So, I mean, and we moved in 1990. So, I mean, we've been in the garage since 90, but we started in 86, so.
Is there any thought or possibility of expanding the current structure?
Pardon?
Expanding?
Possibly expanding.
There's only one way we could expand because of the way, we're limited on space over there. And the way the sand shed sits, and then we have the salt shed. We only got a little space between the salt shed and the further end of the, headed towards Bonneville Road end. We could go back in the bank, but the way the sand shed is, the salt shed, the back of that salt shed is right on our property line, on the school, because the school owns the rest of the land. But it's right, we're right bordering that property. There isn't much room over there. And then if you go down the other end, you're right in the swamp, and you can't do anything in the swamp, so.
Is the swamp between the school and our property?
Yes.
So that's, as you encroach the school,
Yeah, the only one.
the school property closest to that abuts you is not buildable either.
Right.
Is that
We
correct?
got one spot we could go
Yeah.
in between the
It's-
sand shed,
right,
and
this
the
one.
salt
Yeah.
shed and the upper end of the garage, so.
No, I guess my comment would be, we've kicked this around a bit from time to time, and I really think someone's gotta come in, an engineer that can see the building and evaluate it, you know, in the summertime perhaps, but I think we need a plan, you know. To me, this keeps getting kicked down, we've known the roof's been an issue, we know the siding's been an issue, we know the woodpeckers are working hard, you know, to destroy it. But I think we need someone to come, give us an evaluation, to make a determination, to Michael's point, whether is this something we wanna continue to build up? Or do we look at, would it be cheaper to build a new structure? As far
So
as,
could we get the engineer who did the CMA to come back and look at the garage more thoroughly and give us an assessment of its capacity and its future use and what it might mean in regard to repairs?
I see no reason why not. Obviously, they'd want to be paid, but, you know,
Yeah.
we could inquire, depending on the expense of it, if it's less than $2,500, yeah, the select board could choose to directly hire that individual since he's already been here before. If the expense is gonna be more than the $2,500, then we'd have to either make an exception to that policy or go out to bid.
Because when he came and did all the buildings, it was in the middle of the winter.
And it was right after a snowstorm.
And it was, yeah, and he couldn't,
Oh, that's why he couldn't, I didn't
yeah,
understand.
he came, it was during the middle of the winter when he came.
I remember it turned out to be a very bad plan.
So could we come to an agreement that we should at least inquire whether that person can come and find out if he can do this and how much he would charge for it?
I think that's a good suggestion. Will that person have the ability or the expertise to evaluate?
I'm almost wondering an architect.
Well, that's what I don't,
Yeah.
would he,
I don't know what his name was that,
Richard Lancet from Lancet and Associates in Rutland
okay, no.
was his name.
And he made some very, what I thought were good engineering and architectural observations. He seemed to be very professional. If you read the CNA, which you've all done, I mean, he really got into a thorough analysis of what all of our buildings need.
I mean, I could start with just a phone
I
call
would
and ask him if he
Yeah.
felt comfortable giving a more in-depth analysis, or if he thought that was something we should, inquire with an architect. So,
Yeah,
And
because he
we
has,
should start.
we've already spent money with him and he has a sense already, I think, of the
So,
buildings and everything. It would make more sense to have him do it, and if he couldn't do it for less than that.
well, the other thing is, we don't know that he doesn't already have an architect on his staff.
So we're asking him for advice, essentially, right?
Yeah,
About,
yeah,
here's the project, if we're clear about the project, what do you recommend? Can you do it, or give us somebody else?
Or,
Or go
yeah,
somewhere
or at
else.
least give us a sense of what it would entail.
I mean,
So do we have agreement on that we'll start there?
Yes.
So for an action point, I'll reach out to Mr. Lancet and ask these questions.
Yes.
Are you feel like the building, I mean, would you like to be able to pull in the equipment that can't fit through the doors at the moment?
Well,
Is
the
that-
other two, I mean, but one of them, we don't put a wing on it, I mean, we're just using it for, but the grader, if we put the wing on the grader stays outside. I mean, we can put it in on the two bigger sides, there's just barely enough room for it to get in. The other trucks, even the 1 ton with a wing on, we can't put in over on what I call the other two cold storage bays. There's heat over there, but I mean, it's because the doors are small. We're limited, if they had gone back when they built it, another 4 feet, and we'd gotten some good doors in it, I mean, made them wide enough, we'd have been all right on that.
Well, I think that's what you gotta evaluate,
Yeah,
is it
can we
worth
widen the
going back
doors?
4 feet, what, putting new
Yeah.
doors in and all
I
that?
think
So,
that
I mean, if he agreed to come, we could just suggest to him what we're particularly interested in finding out from him.
And I also think that we need to think about 5 or 10 years down the road for the town and what the needs will be, and not do the same thing that happened with this building and just kind of do Band-Aid fixes to the garage. That puts us in a position where we would have been better off with, an earlier decision being made.
The bigger question for me is expandability. We're limited there. We're not gonna be able to expand it for the future in terms of equipment.
Very limited, there's only one
Right.
place that we could go.
Over at the Old Town Garage, is that the footprint that I look at, where the building is and the sand pile? I mean, is it any bigger than that over here?
This over here?
Yeah, no, the one over here.
On Center
Oh,
Road.
that's what I'm calling
Oh,
it.
the one on the center road?
Yeah,
That one just, just cold storage down there. I mean, we just store equipment in it.
Right.
The other thing is, we will not be able to get approved from the state to build there because that is in the floodway. It's
Right.
not even the flood.
Yeah, I
zone.
just wondered if what I was looking at was the full
Oh.
parcel, and whether or not we
Yeah.
could put more equipment down there, but.
I mean,
No, it's-
that's an old cinder block building. I mean, it's old. I mean.
Could we put a
that one-
brand
that
new
one does
steel
need a new
building?
Roof on it.
Right. That, but I'm thinking, do we have the footprint to put a new building on it, you know, like a
Down
steel, yeah,
I
I'm
don't
just
think
asking.
Like Peter was just saying, we're
Right.
in a floodplain.
And so therefore we wouldn't be.
Whatever's there
Right
is
now, we're
there.
grandfathered
That's-
because that
no, that's what I
building's
thought.
Correct. Because
Good.
if we lose that building, we've already been told by the state that we can't replace it.
Gotcha, perfect.
That's why we had to
Okay,
get rid
so
of it.
let's, I think we should move on from this, I think we have agreement of our next step, so.
I do have one other question,
let's
sorry,
take
Ri-
that action. Yes.
Richard,
sir.
sorry. So if we were gonna look further into the future, would it be good, I think another plan we need, or another somebody's thinking about is what would it look like in 15 years? What are the needs? Not just that we'd all be guessing at them and throwing them out, but I'd like to see them on paper. I don't really know what they all are. I'd like
Well, I
to,
think our needs right now is what we got for equipment is, it's adequate for the town. I mean, we got enough.
and for 10 years more?
I would say, I don't think the town, I think it would be safe to say that what we got will be good in 10 years down the road.
Okay.
We've gotten over the years since I've been for the town, all we had was, we didn't even have a dump truck when I first started. All we had was a grader and loader and that was it. So I mean, over the years, we've gone
To
from,
what we currently.
we've gone from 2-man crew to
Yeah.
a 4-man crew, and a 5-man crew, and a 6-man crew, and now we're looking to go back to a 5-man crew, which this winter, having that extra guy was a very big help. I mean, we got around a lot quicker, and it cut down on the overtime big time, so. That's something that the select board probably should be thinking about, maybe someday hiring, because Alan's
And
retiring.
we may have some support
Yeah,
with
I mean,
that
Alan's retiring at the end of
part-time.
next month, end of March, he's done, he's
Right.
retired.
But he's willing to help out
Yeah, oh yeah, just
when
like,
needed.
just, you know, he
If
said
we
he'd come in,
can.
work part-time, or be a
Which is
spare
awesome.
for the winter time for snowstorms and stuff, so.
Good.
Okay, so I
All
think
right,
we're still
thank
on
you.
that issue, is that, Zon, is that good for you?
Thank you, yes, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dan.
You're welcome,
And the rest of you. The next item on our agenda is this question of whether we want to increase the rec commission by 2 commissioners. And Peter has this sort of background on this.
So yeah, so when the Recreation Commission was formed by the Select Board, going on 5 years ago now, the Select Board had the option of creating with 5 commissioners, 7 commissioners, or 9 commissioners. At the time, and I can't specifically find any reasoning behind choosing 7 commissioners.
Right in the middle, baby.
Yeah, that's what was chosen. And so Wendy Stone, the chair of the Recreation Commission, came to me several weeks ago, and this is a conversation she brought up last fall, just noting that at various points during the year they have had difficulty in getting a quorum, whether it's due to illness or work or you know whatever it is for the commissioners involved. There's some other things going on as well that you know will leave by the wayside. Anyhow, so they're hoping to. The other thing is that the 7 commissioners that are also involved are starting to feel a little overburdened with the volume of work that they've been putting forth for all of their activities throughout the year, which you already know about, so I don't need to go into those. And so they would like to get some help from 2 additional commissioners. So all it would really entail would be for the select board to make a motion to add 2 commissioners. If you do approve that motion, then we'd go, we can ask the Recreation Commission if they have any recommendations for who would be interested. I know they already have 1 individual who's already expressed interest. And then the select board would appoint 2 new commissioners and we'd be done.
Do I have a motion? to
I think it's a good idea because, and it's a very active group, and they really, you know, I think having a few more people would be supportive. I don't think it's gonna help their quorum in terms of
Well,
numbers
I know because it's
necessarily,
gonna increase their quorum by
right,
one.
but I do think, I'll make a motion that we add 2 commissioners to the rec commission.
And do I have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor, say
Aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries completely. Thank you very much. On to the next item on the agenda, which is the transfer of the various commissions' funds. Peter, would you speak to that, please?
Yes, so try and be as brief as possible. So I shared with the select board
Yes, please.
a lot of very detailed information regarding this. Several weeks ago when I was doing some additional work that I do at this time of year to update some reports for the select board, there were a couple of items that caught my eye as that seemed a little off, considering that the R3, the conservation, cemetery, and planning commissions do not spend all of their appropriations annually. So I know that in 2014, the select board unanimously moved to create a reserve fund for both the planning and conservation commissions, with any unspent funds at the end of the fiscal year to be moved into those reserve funds for future use. And then in 2016, the same thing happened for the cemetery commission. Looking back through the data, I ended up discovering that for the planning and conservation commissions, that those funds were only transferred in twice in the year since 2014. And then for the cemetery commission, it's only happened once. And so all of those funds are currently sitting in the general reserve fund. So it's not that those funds have disappeared. Since those funds were specifically allocated for those commissions, they are dedicated funds. So you, as a
It's
select board,
misstating our
Yeah,
general
you-
fund too.
yeah, so you
Yeah.
can't technically spend those on other items because
So there are enough notes to make that clear that even though they're in the general reserve.
that's correct. So I would make a recommendation to the select board to make a motion to move those funds from the general reserve fund to the specific reserve fund for each commission. And the Recreation Commission, since they were created, they use 100% of their funds every year, so they don't have any to move. But so I gave the specific amounts to you folks in the information. So that's that. Any,
All right, do I have a motion to make that transfer? That seems pretty.
Sure. Do we need individual transfers for each commission? I mean, individual motions?
no, you can do
No.
You can do all the
you can do all
commissioners.
three of them.
I'll move that all the funds be moved.
Zon, and do I have a second?
I will second.
All right, thank you, Michael. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of that motion, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries unanimously, and thank you very much. The Charter for Compassion. I know, I can just tell you what I know about it. I mean, that there was a request from the Charter for Compassion for Guilford, for the Guilford Selectboard, to tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, to make the motion or that Guilford would become a partner in with other towns and cities as a Charter for Compassion town. Do I have that correctly? And then we got a URL that took me to the Charter for Compassion website, which I read about, and we also had a recommendation from Peter Elwell, the town manager of Brattleboro, who highly recommended the Charter for Compassion as something that we might want to think about as having Guilford be a part of. Does that sum it up correctly, Peter?
Yes.
I don't know whether our select board has had time to look at that, look at the.
For those who have a solid understanding, could I have a little overview of what Charter for Compassion is?
I frankly don't know a whole lot about it, and Veranda, I spoke with Veranda on the phone this afternoon, and she is not necessarily opposed to the idea, but she personally would like to learn a little bit more about the organization before the select board makes this commitment.
So I did go to the website.
I'm supportive of that because
and-
I'm not familiar.
And read about it, and what it is that you.
Can someone give us a
It's
presentation on it?
basically,
He can,
you
yes.
sort of you join into a partnership of towns and cities which care for their citizens, attempt to not make any actions which create harm among the citizenry, that you also, in other words, that you try to run the town government and to create a space of compassion and promote compassion within the citizenry of your town. And you might choose a project that would be, for instance, in a larger town, something about working with the Boys and Girls Clubs to make it a more compassionate place, or in our town perhaps, the Guilford Free Library, we would have a project that would exemplify the standards of compassion.
And I mean, that all sounds great. I think Guilford does that now, so I don't understand how this takes us to a more formal way of addressing
Well,
compassion.
you sign on formally to this organization, which is a nonprofit,
I-
and you become a formal partner. I'm not advocating for this, I'm just
Yeah.
explaining.
I guess I need to understand more.
I don't think it would change our behavior. I don't think our behavior would likely change at all. I think it's just that we'd be aligning with other cities around the world that are
Right.
part of this. Yeah, I
Yes,
know a
like
little bit about
Brattleboro.
this. I was one of the founding members of this thing when it first popped out because I'm a big fan of Karen Armstrong. So, you know.
Richard, while you were talking, Michael did ask if this gentleman, Jim Levinson, could come and present to the select board and be able to answer some
I
questions.
think that's a very good
Let's
idea.
invite him in.
Okay, I will invite him to come to present at a future select board meeting.
Great.
Great. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda in new business is the grand list certification. I believe that's just a letter that we have to sign, or we have to.
Yes. Yep, that is correct. So it's very simple. I've never seen this in the past, and but the state asks both our lister's office and the select board to certify that we have no appeals or no lawsuits against the town regarding our grand list and value of properties. Lisa has already signed it, attesting to that fact, and she just asks for a motion and for the signature of select board members.
May I have a motion, please?
Yeah, what is it called?
It's a certification of grand.
I'll make a motion to certify our grand list.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it.
2 seconds.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. On to old business. I hope that everyone's had a chance to read the revised town administrative job description. Now, Peter, we need a motion to approve the changes, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Does anybody have anything to discuss about that or make a motion about it?
I'll make a motion that we approve the job descriptions as presented.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
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 Aye. Any
I-
opposed?
No one's opposed. I would only ask the select board as they move forward with the new job descriptions and as the roles, particularly with the the assistant support, kind of play out, that there'd be a close look at maybe needing to adjust it in the next 12 months or so. Just, that's the critical time, in my opinion, that this will shake out.
If I can just add one quick point to that, from my conversation with Veranda, I would personally recommend to the select board to, just due to budgeting, to not hire this individual, whether it is an individual that currently works for the town or somebody else, until the new fiscal year begins in July. Just because we had not budgeted for it in this fiscal year.
Oh, I see.
I agree with that.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Good suggestion.
Now I understand there are some personnel policy concerns, and I'm not sure who's speaking to that, you, Peter?
I think I will speak briefly to it, and then I think Gordon had a couple comments on it. So there were a couple of additional clarifications that came up from the road crew regarding the personnel policy. One was frankly just a very simple clerical error in the fact that in the corrections that you folks made a month or so ago, that we forgot one anniversary in there, and so just simply adding an anniversary number in there, which we did. And then the other item was that there was some confusion regarding how overtime is calculated. And make a long story short, it came about that even though this policy has been in place for over 5 years, what was written for the policy and what has been actual practice both in the town as well as in the town office for payroll did not match up. And the opinion is that it's unfair to town employees to suddenly start enforcing a policy that has not been enforced for all these years.
So what it basically comes down to is 5 years ago, there was a change, and that change was not instituted in terms of overtime pay as it was being calculated, just what Peter said. So for the last 5 years, our policy said one thing, we're doing something else, and it was just, I honestly don't think, we'd have to go and run numbers to understand completely how significant a difference it is. But to me, when the issue was brought to my attention and we researched it, I am in total, I'm of the opinion that if we've been doing it this way for 5 years, even though our policy said something else, and it's been billed that way, that we wouldn't make that change all of a sudden because the policy said so.
The additional point I would add to what Gordon just said is that in our annual budgeting practices, Danny budgets for overtime
Correct.
as it has been paid. The way that it has been currently implemented for the past 5 years, and frankly before that. And so by changing the policy to reflect what is in practice will not financially impact the town a penny.
Correct. And I'll Danny played such close attention and plans for this that my personal opinion is that we just continue to move forward the way it's been done and take out whatever the verbiage is.
Which I did in this sample for you guys.
And Peter addressed that, but I'm of the opinion, and Dan, you may want to weigh in on it, that we ought to just maintain what we've been doing and the way Dan has been. Dan plans for his overtime, basically as best he can. So this is a calculated process that he goes through. I know these two are going to be on there for these. It's a plan. When Dan's not here, I have a higher concern that maybe we need to look at this more closely. But that's my 2 cents.
So are you saying, you're suggesting, Gordon, that we should edit the personnel
Yes.
policy to make sure that it's in line with actual practice?
Correct. That's a very good way to put it.
The copy that was in the folder that was shared with all of you, that had already happened. And I had highlighted each section for you to take a look at.
Okay, so do we need to have a motion about that?
So it would be a motion to approve the document as edited and presented to you over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, do you want to?
If all the changes have been made to make it.
Yep.
I'm happy.
To bring it
The
in line
boys
with
will be happy.
practice.
It was a matter of, frankly, it was a matter of removing 2 sentences is all it was.
Yep.
Okay,
So good, I'll make a motion that we edit the personnel,
Or you accept as edited. 'Cause
We-
it's already been
do I
edited.
have a
right,
second?
we accept it as edited. That's what that was.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously, thank you very much. Now on to
and thank you,
the,
Dan, for bringing that.
equalization. Peter, do you want to speak to that?
Yep, unfortunately, Lisa could not be here tonight because of a previous family commitment. So the town received a letter from Jill Remick, the Director of Property Evaluation and Review from the Department of Taxes, to whom the Select Board submitted an appeal from what Lisa recommended previously. Of the 3 properties that were recommended for changing, the Department of Taxes accepted 2 of them, and they denied 1 of them. So we have one of 2 options. Lisa did some further investigation on those two options. One option is to accept what they have come back to us with, and the other is to continue to appeal. They have scheduled a tentative appeal hearing for April 23rd at 10 a.m. in Montpelier. Lisa's professional opinion is she's highly doubtful that since they've already denied it once, we do not have any additional information to submit, that the select board should accept the proposal from the Department of Taxes as written. If that's the case, I need you to make a motion and then select one of the current members sitting here before me to sign on behalf of the select board.
Okay, so do I have a motion that we are going to accept this certification,
I,
recertification letter?
I will make a motion that we accept Lisa's recommendation that we accept this.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Now, I need a second motion to have a select board member to sign the document, because there's only space for one person.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Zahn to sign that document.
Do I have a second?
Second.
You're gonna have to
Is
come
there any
back, Richard,
discussion?
to sign it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 He's been quiet tonight.
Thank you.
So I might as well get active here with my pen, huh?
So,
The
yeah,
next
Thanks,
item
man.
on the agenda is
sign where it says chair.
Chair of legislative body.
The next item on the agenda is the town meeting talking points. I just wanted to go through those again. I just want to make sure that
Should I
everybody's
date it?
comfortable with those. The original set that Peter sent out was not really the original, because in the original I had me speaking for 6 and 8, and now Peter put that back in. And I'm just wanting to know whether you're all comfortable with those articles that you're going to present at town meeting.
Yes. I didn't see a change.
The only changes I made
Yeah.
what Richard said is I added his name. I removed Zahn from one article and Michael from one article and added Richard in, so
That's
that's,
perfect. For
You
me.
mean so that they're,
Okay, good.
yeah, whatever, I don't, whatever, just tell
We
me what
don't
to
need a
do.
motion on that. Now,
No.
while we're at the town meeting, can we legally bring up this matter of the lunch that you, Peter, you had
Yeah.
suggested that?
yes, so I received a phone call from Mark Tassitori, the owner, one of the co-owners of the Guilford Country Store. He informed me that he and Suzanne have had a fair number, he didn't say how many, but he said quite a few people have approached them in the past 2 weeks, expressing concern that due to the fact that there is no school portion to the meeting, the items on the select board warning are non-controversial and should be fairly quick, that there will be no need for a lunch break this year, and that people will disperse prior to lunchtime. I think realistically, it may take only slightly over an hour to complete the whole thing, and I've spoken with Penny and others about that, and they would tentatively agree. And so Mark also expressed that while they do personally enjoy it, that from a business standpoint, that they have actually been losing money for the past several years on providing this service. And due to the changes, he and Suzanne talked about it and have decided to decline providing lunch. Now, and that's for a number of reasons, the primary one being loss of revenue. He said the fact that a lot of people often come to the country store after town meeting day anyways. So his request to the select board was to let people know that they will be having a soup and salad special on town meeting day. And apparently it looks like we've lost internet connection. 'Cause I've
No,
lost-
I'm
Yeah,
here.
he's there.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, and to encourage people to come over to the country store if they would like to have lunch. So,
So I don't know what about the rest of the select board, but I'm fine not having lunch at the meeting, particularly since if it's going to be a 2-hour delay or a 1-hour delay even to get from the business of the meeting to lunch, I don't see, and secondly, that the Guilford Country Store is not going to provide that lunch, and it's late, and Thirdly, the select board is not responsible for providing the lunch. It used to be a fundraiser for the middle school. I'm perfectly fine with not having lunch at the meeting.
I
And I
think,
think other members of the town might feel the same way.
There's several residents who have expressed a great unhappiness with this decision. But, you know, as Richard noted, there's no obligation to do so. Yes, maybe it's a tradition, and some people don't like to see traditions go by the wayside. But there's no obligation for it. And I think that my personal recommendation to you folks is, if we want to see businesses survive and thrive in Guilford, we should support the decisions that they make to keep their business in a healthy financial point. But that's my personal recommendation. It's up to you what you want to do.
I agree.
There are some residents who are attempting to organize lunch on this day because they're unhappy about the situation, but I've not been involved in that.
I think that would be a great solution.
Yeah,
So if there are
that's
citizens and they can get it together, we wish them the best.
Well, Richard, I'm with you on that.
Anyone
I'm
else? But-
comfortable.
I see it your way as well. I take no exception.
I can't hear
Is
what you
this-
said, Michael.
Repeat yourself.
I take no exception. I agree with you.
Okay.
Is the school really not doing, I thought there was some sort of video presentation by the advisory board, is that
But
just,
it's going to be brief.
and it'll be part of the,
It's going to be part of the
Hour-long.
town portion, yes. It's going to be under any additional business at the very end.
Okay, so we don't need a motion or anything about that now.
No, sir.
Okay, we're on to the warrants.
Okay, I'll make the motion to pay the following warrants. Payroll week ending 2/16/20 for $7,138.61. Payroll week ending 2/23/20 for $7,470.43. And expense warrant number 2016 for $20,729.94 for a grand total of $35,338.98.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
And
Okay, is there any, do you have anything to discuss?
yes, I just want to highlight under expense warrant 2016, the key things in that stood out to me were our insurance payment in the tune of, I want to say, around $5,000. Our EOC satellite re-up with our phones is on there, 2,100, I want to say, and sand was on there, our last purchase of sand, which is hopefully going to carry us for a while, were the big items.
Great. Any other further discussion? The motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Then the summary of actions.
Yes, so the summary of
Oh,
actions
I'm
from...
sorry, Peter, it's communications next.
Actually, I have no communications. Although I've just been notified by Zahn that he has some communications.
For Gordon.
A Gordon communication.
This is a communication to
Wow.
Gordon.
And it is a very pretty print.
Hand drawn.
Oh, look
by
at
locals.
this. Oh my, well, thank you guys, all, my
Gordon,
fellow.
we want to, I'll speak for the select board, I have other select members who may want to speak to this as well. This is a communication. We want to thank you for your 5 years of distinguished service on the select board. You've been, personally for me, a very friendly, industrious colleague, perceptive. I think that your acuity about the warrants and also the town finances and your commitment to protecting the citizens of Guilford in regard to our annual budget, making sure that the budget is straightforward, understandable, and precise, has really been a boon not only to the select board but to our town. And we are very grateful for your service. We wish you weren't going either.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that very much, Richard and everyone else.
Thank you, Richard.
it'll be,
You really have been a fine colleague, and you've made my tenure on the select board and my coming to the select board much more comfortable and friendly, so thanks.
thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very
All
kind.
right, and does anyone else have anything to say? Well, we could all say thank you, Gordon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
I
And
can
I
listen
know
to
if
her and
Miranda,
make a mistake.
Gordon, if Miranda were with us tonight, she would probably have a poem for you. She's probably in the Caribbean writing a poem.
Well, I hope she's enjoying, that's all.
Okay, so the summary of actions?
Yes, add the town administrator job description for approval at next meeting, which we've done. You approved spending of $100 to fund childcare for town meeting day. Review future needs of the town garage to the next meeting. Peter to share the pre-town meeting talking points with select board members. And Peter and Veranda to investigate if Steve Lemke or someone else could attend the broadband training on behalf of the town. And so all of those items were taken care of. We did not have anyone attend the broadband training, but they did film it, and it is now up on the Wyndham Regional Commission website, and I have that on the next select board agenda to talk about it in more detail.
I'll commit to watching that before the next meeting.
I'm going to too.
I'm sure it'll be fun.
I just thought of something, and I don't know whether this is inappropriate or not, but we didn't talk about the survey.
That's what
Well,
this was.
that's-
That's gonna be, that's what I just mentioned, we're gonna have on the next select board meeting.
Oh, okay,
I already filled out the survey.
I did too.
okay. But
What's
we
the
need to-
time frame on
but-
that? As far as when it needs to be turned around?
But the select board is gonna have to have.
April.
The select board is gonna have to have some vehicle for at least promoting it or distributing it or
Yeah.
something, and so I guess that's what we'll talk about next time.
Yeah.
Yes, well, there's good examples there with, what is it, Whitingham?
Yeah, I think attaching cost to what Whitingham did to have at the next select board meeting would be very
I
helpful.
will. That was my
Because
intention.
to me, this is kind of a no-brainer,
So would you
but
put that on the actions?
I won't be there to.
Yeah, I already, added it to the agenda for the next meeting because of what, sharing that email with you all earlier today, so it's already on there.
Okay, good. Well, the next item is adjournment.
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
Forever?
My last meeting.
Do I have a second?
Sadly, yes.
Okay, and is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No, we can
Motion
adjourn.
carries.
Thank you,
Thank you
Richard.
very much. We're
Thank
gonna
you.
miss you, Gordon.
Well, I'm gonna miss everyone here.
Okay.
And you over there.
See you at town meeting.
Definitely.
All right.
All right, signing off.